Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum. This is the story of Asiyah Bint Al Muzahim. Asiyah was a queen of her time, a real queen. Allah had granted her all the luxuries of the dunya. Anything she wanted or needed, it was at her command. Her wish was her command. Asiyah lived a long, long time before us in Egypt. It was a time when some of mankind were worshipping a king, a human. He was known as Pharaoh. Pharaoh was very unkind as a leader. We always have to remember that Allah gives us two choices in life. One is to follow His guided ways, and the other is the evil way. Those who follow His guided ways will be honored and granted Jannah, and those who choose to follow the evil way will be dishonored and given Jahannam. O Allah, save us from being the people who choose the evil way and make us among those who are on your rightly guided ways. Ameen. Coming back to Asiyah, she was married to Pharaoh, the same Pharaoh who called people to worship him. May Allah protect us from such trials. In the same town, a little far away from the palace, there was a peaceful home, a modest home, a blessed home, where a mother had given birth to two prophets. Their names were Musa and Harun. When Musa a.s. was born, there was an atrocious order from Pharaoh to not allow any newborn baby boys to live. But of course, man plans and Allah plans, and Allah is the best of planners. At this point in time, Allah planned for Musa to live, and therefore Musa lived. Musa's mother was very worried when she had the baby, as she feared that Pharaoh's army would harm him. Allah strengthened her heart and inspired her to put Musa in a basket and put him in the river. She did, and the basket flowed down the river, carried by Allah's plan and might, right to the doorsteps of Pharaoh's castle. Baby Musa was picked up from the basket in the river by the castle members and brought to Queen Asiyah. Allah put love in her heart for baby Musa as soon as she laid eyes on him. She went to Pharaoh to seek his permission to keep the baby. You see, Allah had not decreed for Queen Asiyah to have children of her own. But little did she know that Allah was going to bless her to raise a baby that would be His prophet. She desired deeply to care for a child, so she asked Pharaoh to not harm the baby, and perhaps the baby could be the coolness of her eyes and his. Pharaoh arrogantly replied that the baby will not be the coolness of his eyes. Allah decreed that Musa would be brought up in the household of Pharaoh, and therefore Queen Asiyah's wish was accepted by the tyrant Pharaoh, not knowing what to befall him in the future. Allah granted Asiyah, a righteous woman, to raise Musa, a righteous man. Allah also reunited Musa with his mom. He decreed that Musa would not accept any other wet nurse until his own mother was presented to feed him milk. No one had the slightest idea that the wet nurse was Musa's mother, the one who put him in the basket by the inspiration of the Lord Almighty. Such was Allah's plan. Asiyah cared for Musa. She loved him. She looked after him and raised him to be a good, strong man by the will of Allah. Allah wanted to prepare Musa for the role that He had chosen for him, the role of a prophet. For that, a series of events that Allah had written for him occurred, and it kept him away from Egypt for 10 years. When it was decreed by Allah, the Rabb of the Alameen, Musa was given the message of Tawheed. Tawheed is knowing and accepting that everything and everyone that we see, do not see, control, do not control, possess, do not possess, belongs to the one and only Allah. Musa was ordered to return to Egypt and speak gently to Pharaoh to preach him the truth. Firmness and gentleness is the essence of our deen. Once the truth was presented to Pharaoh, it spread everywhere among all the people in Egypt. Asiyah too heard the message, and she immediately accepted it to be al-haq, the absolute truth. Allah had granted her an illuminated heart. That is a heart that can distinguish between the truth and falsehood. Being blessed with this heart, she never, ever accepted or believed that Pharaoh was God. She was his wife. She knew the intricate details of his daily life. He needed food and water as fuel. He felt tired and needed sleep. He needed counsel to help him with decision making. He was dependent. God is not dependent. God is self-sufficient. He is the all-powerful and the almighty. He does not need food or drink. Neither does he feel drowsy, nor does he need sleep. These attributes of God is what makes him the one to be worshipped. And she knew Pharaoh did not have any of these attributes. Therefore, he was a creation just like her and everyone else. When Musa said that Allah is one and he is the all-powerful, Asiyah's heart instantly knew that to be the truth. She became a Muslim. She practiced her belief in secret for some time until an incident occurred in the palace that gave her heart the courage to openly declare her belief in the one true God, Allah. The incident occurred with the Mashita, the hairdresser of Pharaoh's daughter, a daughter from his other wives. The daughter had a Mashita, a hairdresser who was a kind woman. Allah had given her the most precious gift, the gift of Iman. When the message of Tawheed spread, she was among those who accepted it wholeheartedly. One day, she was brushing the hair of Pharaoh's daughter, and the hairbrush fell from her hand to the ground. And on reflex, she said, Bismillah. The blessed tongue is one that remembers Allah often. When she said Bismillah, which means in the name of Allah, Pharaoh's daughter turned and said, Do you mean my father? My father is God. You mean him, right? And the Mashita replied, No, I am talking about Allah, the King of the universe and everything in it. The daughter further said, I will tell my father if you don't go back to worshipping him. Allah kept the Mashita's heart and feet firm, and she replied, Go ahead and tell him. I am not afraid of him. He is a mere human after all. When Pharaoh was informed of this, he called the Mashita and asked her who her Lord is. She replied with firmness, It is Allah, the one who created me and created you. Pharaoh asked her to change her mind, but she would not. She would not turn back on her heart that knew her true Lord. He asked for a big, boiling, deep pot of oil to be prepared, and he asked for the Mashita's children to be brought. Some narrations say she had 5 children. When her first child was brought forth, Pharaoh asked her to change her belief, but she refused and stood with La ilaha illallah. There is no God but Allah. Pharaoh harmed her first child with the boiling oil and ended his life. Her second child was brought forth. The same question with the same answer. La ilaha illallah. There is no God but Allah. He harmed the second child and ended his life too. The same with the third one and the fourth one. What a cruel, remorseless king he was. Her fifth child was a baby in her arms, and she could not bear to see him being harmed too. Her heart almost gave up, and she almost gave in after seeing all her other children being harmed and were no longer alive. But indeed, the help of Allah is near. Allah inspired the baby to speak, and he said to his mom, "Keep going, Mom. You are on the truth. Keep going, Mom." That sealed her firmness, and she requested one thing before she did what's next. She asked for the remains of her children and herself to be buried in the same grave. She wanted to be resurrected with them. Then she jumped into the boiling pot of oil with her baby, and Allah granted her Jannah and scented the highest Jannah with her perfume. Her burial request was also fulfilled. Such is how the Almighty takes care of His believing slaves. Asiyah, having seen this cruelty perpetrated by her husband, and more importantly, seeing the hairdresser's bravery and courage to stand up to him and defend the truth, changed something in the queen's heart. Allah strengthened her heart further, and she declared her iman publicly. La ilaha illallah. There is no one that deserves to be worshipped except Allah. She told Pharaoh to do what he wants. She will not shy away from this truth. Pharaoh was surprised, and then anger took over. His own wife does not believe in his divinity. This would weaken the general public's faith in him as their Lord. He began inflicting harm on Asiyah in the most heinous way. She had no one to protect her. Musa was not there to save her either. She was all alone, just with her trust in her Rabb. And what a firm place to put her trust in. Pharaoh harmed her so much that she could barely talk. She could barely stand. She had wounds on her body, but she would not stop saying, La ilaha illallah. This infuriated Pharaoh. It was beyond his understanding that someone could withstand this much pain and humiliation and still hold on to their belief. He wanted to inflict one final punishment on her and end her life. He removed what Allah has honored us with to cover our body, clothes. He stripped her of that honor and tied her on a stick with her bare skin exposed in a field where people could see. Pharaoh's household members, daughter and wives were laughing at Asiyah. She was a queen. She had everything that anyone could dream of. She was intelligent. She was beautiful. And she was powerful. And yet she gave it all up for La ilaha illallah. Why? Asiyah was indeed intelligent, as she knew everything is given by Allah. And if you sacrifice the dunya for the truth, Allah the Most Kind will give you an eternal life of rewards in the hereafter, a reward that will never end. Pharaoh ordered a boulder to be brought up on the hill, and the plan was to roll it down the hill so it could cause serious harm on Asiyah's body and possibly end her life. While she was tied, she made dua to Allah. Rabbi ibni li indaka baytan fil jannah. Oh my Rabb, build for me a house near you in Jannah. Allah mentions her dua in the Quran in Surah At-Tahrim, the prohibition, ayah 11. When she made this dua, Allah Al-Mujib, the one who responds, accepted it, and He showed her her house in Jannah at that moment itself. She saw her castle in Jannah while she was still in the dunya. Some scholars say the sky opened up and she saw her palace. She started smiling, and some say she even started laughing out of joy of what is waiting for her. Mercy from her Rabb, honor from her Rabb, and reward from her Rabb. When Pharaoh saw her smiling and laughing, he said, "Look at this woman. She has lost her sense." He ordered for the boulder to be released, but before it could harm her, Allah took her soul and ended her test in the dunya and accepted her into His mercy. Pharaoh was not given the pleasure of causing any more harm on her. His dishonored end was coming close. As for Asiyah, she was a complete woman, and Allah had blessed her with so much in the dunya, but she did not let any of it blind her heart when the truth knocked on her door. She let go of every luxury just to say La ilaha illa Allah, a remembrance that weighs more than the dunya and everything in it. She certainly knew the value of that and asked Allah Al-Kareem, the most generous, for the greatest of rewards, and He granted it to her. The house in Jannah is how Queen Asiyah's dunya ends and her akhirah begins. May Allah grant us the gift of Tawheed in its purest form. Ameen. This is the end.